All right, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Akeen, and welcome to today's vlogs. Gonna continue to give you my draft grades for each team for the 2017 NFL Draft. For this vlog, I'm here to talk about the NFC East teams, and this is going to be another big season in the NFC East. This is the most competitive season in the National Football League by far. This is going to be a tight race, and all four of the teams did a pretty good job with their draft picks. Now, I'm actually going to start with the NFC East champion last season, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, their first round pick, 28th overall, they picked up Chaco Charlton, the defensive end coming out of Michigan, and I think this was a little bit of a wasted selection. Yes, they really are in dire need of a pass rusher, and I think they could have went with better pass rushers than Taco Charlton. Don't get me wrong, Charlton is a pretty good player, but he wasn't the top premier pass rusher that I was looking for entering this year's draft. I think there's a little bit of a wasted selection. They could have went with other players. They could have probably went with an outside linebacker who could rush, but this was a little bit of a wasted selection. I think they could have went with a better defensive end in this pick. And the next two rounds, they actually did a great job going further in the defensive secondary positions. They picked up Chidobe Awuzie out of Colorado, the cornerback, in the second round. And in the third round, they picked up a pretty good steal in Jordan Lewis coming out of Michigan, the cornerback. Now, some people believe that he has better cover skills than his fellow teammate in Jabril Peppers, who I believe he will be a better fit at the safety position in the NFL. In the fourth round, they picked up a great wide receiver out of North Carolina who could also be used as a return specialist, and Ryan Switzer. He does remind me of Cole Beasley, but I think he's a better athlete than Cole Beasley, and I think he would be an excellent slot receiver to complement Dez Bryant. In the sixth round, they picked up a good value pick in safety Xavier Woods out of Louisiana Tech. I think this was an excellent selection, particularly in this particular round. I think that Xavier could have went possibly fifth or fourth round, around a couple rounds earlier at best, but I think this is definitely going to help out the secondary, particularly at safety, which he is a safety. Second, in the sixth round, they picked up another cornerback out of Florida State in Marquez White. This was a decent selection. In the seventh round, they picked up Joey Ivy, the defensive tackle coming out of Florida. Now, he does have some raw materials, and the Cowboys did lose Terrell McClain, so they definitely was trying to address the interior defensive lineman, and hopefully Joey could be that guy if he makes the team. And with their final couple selections, they picked up Noah Brown, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. Now, he had a great highlight reel against Oklahoma at Norman this past season, especially with that spectacular touchdown catch in the corner. And in the seventh round, second and seventh round, their final selection, they went with Jordan Carroll, the defensive tackle out of Colorado. So they're trying to build competition at DT for Jordan and Carroll, as well as Joey Ivy. This is going to be a tough competition to fill in the void for Terrell McClain. Now, overall for the Dallas Cowboys, I actually have to give them a B. I'm just going to give them a B minus, but I'm actually just going to stick with a solid B. They did some pretty good picks, but I did not like that first round pick of this year's draft for the Cowboys and Taco Charlton. They could have went with a better pass rusher. Next team is the Philadelphia Eagles. They had a pretty good draft selections, particularly addressing it in the defensive side with the first three picks. Their first pick, they picked up their top pass rusher and Derek Barnett out of Tennessee at pick 14 overall. This was an excellent selection. Unlike the Dallas Cowboys, they actually picked up a great premier pass rusher. Barnett is a player who should be looking at, who will definitely complement Brandon Graham on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Next up in the second round, they picked Sidney Jones, a cornerback out of Washington. This was an excellent selection. Now, he is recovering from an Achilles injury, but watch out for this kid. Rasul Douglas is another cornerback they picked up in the third round out of West Virginia. Now, they definitely did not mind trying to pick up and address the cornerback position and try to build more competition and depth for the Philadelphia Eagles corners. In the fourth round, they picked up Matt Collins out of UNC. Now, they're looking to try to get a young receiver to become the premier guy, and they've been actually trying to pick up some players. They picked up Jordan Matthews, who I believe could be that number one guy. They picked up Dorian Green Beckham out of Tennessee, Nelson Aguilar, and draft picks. They're trying to find some good wide receivers, young talent. Now, Matt Collins, is a talented player who is definitely a deep ball threat. In the fourth round, they picked up another player. Actually, they traded picks from the Minnesota Vikings and Donnell Pumphrey out of San Diego State in the fourth round. This was a good pick placement to replace Darren Sproles, and he does have that Darren Sproles burst, as well as also he could be effective as a return specialist, particularly in punt return. And they're definitely going to be using him in different selections in the offense as well. I think he does have great talent. Now, his size is a concern, so he's not in every down back that you can count on, but he could definitely be in good special positions offensively and be used as a return specialist, as mentioned. In the fifth round, they picked up another wide receiver out of West Virginia and Sheldon Gibson. This is a decent selection. Sticking in the fifth round, they went with Nate Gary, the safety out of Nebraska. This was a decent selection as well. And then rounding things off is Elijah Qualls, defensive tackle out of Washington. I think this was a solid selection in the sixth round due to his value. Now, overall for the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm actually going to give them a B+. I think they had a great first three picks with addressing the cornerbacks as well as a good pass rusher. And then in the later rounds, a couple of question marks, particularly at the end of the draft. But I did like the Matt Collins pick. Hopefully he could be a true deep ball threat. And I did like Donnell Pumphrey, but the last three picks look little okay selections. I'm actually going to give them a B+ overall. Next up, the Washington Redskins. Must say they actually have a great draft pick, especially with the first 4 rounds. Now, in the first pick in the first round, they had a great steal in Jonathan Allen out of Alabama. Now, due to the fact that teams was actually traded up to get quarterbacks that actually pushed Jonathan Allen down, he's actually one of my top overall prospects entering this year's draft. Overall, actually my top 3 overall. And this is a good defensive tackle. He could also play defensive end as well. He has just enough versatility to be a defensive end. And in the second round, they picked up another player from Alabama to address the outside linebacker and Ryan Anderson. Now, they did pick up Zach Brown coming out of the Buffalo Bills, and I think that Anderson will definitely complement things in the linebacking core for the Washington Redskins. This is an excellent selection. Sticking with in the third round, they still sticking on the defensive side. They went with Fabian Moreau out of the cornerback out of UCLA. Now, yes, he is returning from a pectoral injury, but when he comes back, he should be effective immediately. I think this will be a good pick to work opposite of Josh Norman, and I think this could be an aggressive defense. Now, they still need help at safety, and they actually picked one up in the 4th round, and they picked up Monte Nicholson out of Michigan State. Coming out of Mark D'Antonio's defense, they have some great defensive players defensively for the Michigan State Spartans over the last couple of seasons, and Monte Nicholson is another one of those guys. Now, also in the 4th round, just the running backs. Now, I kind of think that the Washington Redskins should have traded up to pick up Dalvin Cook, but I do like the selection of Samaj Perine out of Oklahoma. He will complement well along with Robert Kelly. I think this could be a great tandem, just like how Perine was at OU with Joe Mixon this past couple of seasons. In the 5th round, they picked up Jeremy Sprinkle coming out of Arkansas, the tight end. This was an okay selection. They did not really need a tight end because we already know that they have Jordan Reed, and he is very effective. In the 6th round, they picked up a center out of Wyoming and Chase Rowler. This was an okay selection. He has a mechanical engineering degree. He is smart, and he definitely does well learning the playbook. So this is a pretty good selection. And in the 6th round, they picked up Robert Davis, a good wide receiver out of Georgia State, who is a deep ball threat. This is an interesting selection. He has great size and speed. And rounding up in the 7th round, they did have 2 selections, and Josh Harvey Clemens, the safety / linebacker out of Louisville. This was an okay selection to add more speed into the secondary as well as the linebacking core. Depends on where they're going to put him in on the defensive side. And rounding things up, a cornerback out of Auburn, and Joshua Hulsey. This is a interesting selection as well. Now, overall for the Washington Redskins, I'm actually going to give them an A-. I really like their picks, particularly in the first 4 rounds. Finally, the New York Giants, they had a great draft as well. Now, this was a surprise with their first round pick in Evan Ingram out of Ole Miss. Now, they could have went with David Njoku coming out of the U, but this kid is more versatile and more athletic, in my opinion, as far as where they could use him as a slot wide receiver and put him in different placements. Now, there is a concern as far as his blocking technique. He's not a reliable blocker in run or pass, but I think this is going to be a dangerous receiving core for the New York Giants. They did pick up Brandon Marshall. They still have Odell Green Beckham, and they with the selection of Evan Ingram at tight end. Let's not forget about Sterling Shepard. Do not sleep on him. He had a decent rookie season, in my opinion. I think this is a dangerous receiving core, and I understand why the Washington Redskins looked at the defensive side with their first selections of their picks, so they could address dealing with the tough offenses of the NFC East division. Now, in the second round for the New York Giants, they addressed the defensive tackle position and Dalvin Tomlinson, who would definitely complement Snackswell, Damon Harrison, who was an All-Pro this past season. They did lose an offensive tackle in Hankins, Jonathan Hankins. I think he's with the Indianapolis Colts and signing him. Now, in the third round, they looked up to try to get a future quarterback in Davis Webb. This was a little bit of a head scratcher for me. Now, he is coming off of a good season from Cal, but I think that they could have addressed quarterback for next season, because I still see at least 3 decent seasons, okay seasons coming out of Eli Manning, and I think they could have went with a quarterback at worst next year's draft. In the fourth round, they went with Wayne Goldman, the running back coming out of Clemson. Now, the Giants did have some interest in picking up LeGarrette Blount from the New England Patriots. He actually led the NFL with 18 rushing touchdowns last season. I think this was a better selection and a better choice to go with this one in the fourth round and not pick up LeGarrette Blount. They pick up a good physical running back out of Clemson in Wayne Goldman, and he will be a lot cheaper than LeGarrette Blount. So I think this is a pretty smart selection. In the fifth round, they picked up Avery Moss, the defensive end, coming out of Youngstown State. This was an interesting selection. He is coming off of a great senior year with 17.5 tackles for loss to go along with 10.5 sacks. He did play in the lower division, FCS, and I wish him the best of luck. Now, rounding things up, I think there was a great value pick in Adam Besnawati, the offensive tackle coming out of Pitt. This was an excellent selection in the 6th round due to his value. I actually had Adam going a little bit earlier. Now, I think this was a great pick, and overall for the New York Giants, I'm actually going to give them an A for their efforts. Even with the pick of Evan Ingram, yes, a lot of people will disagree with me, but I actually like that selection in the 1st round, even though it was a little bit of a reach. But this was a smart pick for them at the same time to build up more weapons for Eli Manning to pass through offensively. Now, the next time I'm actually going to catch you guys will be in just a couple minutes. I have actually 5 more blogs for today. Thank you for watching this blog. I'm your man, Keem McCall. Be easy.